It's an historic moment for the Congress. It's an historic moment for the women of America.
And tonight I have the high privilege and distinct honor of my own as the first president to begin the State of the Union message with these words: Madam Speaker.
Following a big story from Washington, D.C. this morning, there was a big blow over the weekend for President Biden's Build Back Better plan.
Yeah, they thought they had it in the bag after months of negotiations, but in the end, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says he just cannot support it. He made that announcement over the weekend, and KRON 4's D.C. correspondent Jesse Tenor has more on what happened.
Manchin's blow to the president's agenda comes after months of negotiations, taking many in his own party by surprise.
I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't.
And just like that, President Biden's social spending and climate plan appears to have died in the Senate.
This is a no on this legislation. I have tried everything I know to do.
West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has long been the key holdout on the $2 trillion bill and said on Fox News Sunday it's still too expensive and too broad.
Not changing our approach, not targeting things we should be doing, making sure that people basically that truly need it are getting it.
Manchin said Congress should instead focus on rising inflation and COVID.
There's a lot of good, but that bill is a mammoth piece of legislation.
Manchin's pronouncement seemed to take the White House by surprise. Press Secretary Jen Psaki called his decision a, quote, sudden and inexplicable reversal in his position and a breach of his commitments to the president and congressional Democrats. Earlier this week, President Biden had agreed to back off a Christmas deadline to vote on the bill to continue negotiations with Manchin.
Let him vote no in front of the whole world.
On CNN's State of the Union, a visibly angry Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders accused Manchin of caving to pressure from the energy industry and others.
Let Mr. Manchin explain to the people of West Virginia why he doesn't have the guts to stand up to powerful special interests.
The White House left open the possibility of further negotiations with Manchin. Senators come back to work January 3rd. Now, Democrats could pivot here and try to pass some parts of the plan as standalone bills, or they could turn their attention to another looming priority ahead of the 2022 midterms, voting rights legislation. In Washington, I'm Jesse Tenor.
All right, well, to talk more about the fate of the president's Build Back Better plan and more headlines from Capitol Hill, we're joined by KRON 4 political analyst Michael Yockey. And Michael, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, this kind of came out of left field for a lot of lawmakers.
This is the kind of situation where you start thinking of Joe Manchin as the Grinch who stole Christmas. And certainly for the Democrats, that's exactly what they think of in terms of whether his heart is two sizes too small. You can tell by the reaction of the White House. In fact, behind the scenes, Manchin didn't even bother calling the president. He sent an aide to the White House to just let him know, I'm going to go on Fox News and say no. Not even the courtesy of a phone call. When they tried to call him back, I mean senior aides in the White House, they were met with basically, no, sorry, call back later.
Clearly a bit of whiplash because it had seemed like they were getting to some sort of agreement there.
Right.
I was never really sure if they were really going to get an agreement, certainly not the $2.2 trillion that they were looking at. He had continually made throughout the entire time the idea that this was too big and too much. And notice what he said in the Fox News interview. There is some good in there. So the question is whether or not they're going to take something. For example, the child care tax credit, probably the single most effective anti-poverty device for children in this country, for families and children in this country, expires at the end of this year. And that was going to be in Build Back Better. Are they going to try and at least take that out and maybe a couple more things? Even Speaker Pelosi early on had said, maybe we should do fewer things bigger rather than try and push everything in there, which is what they try to do, and then through legislative mechanics, come up with the same number. But I have a feeling that there's still a deal to be made, but we won't see it until the new year, and it certainly is not going to be a very good Christmas for the Bidens or for the progressives in Congress right now.
Well, we did hear from Schumer that he will probably hold a vote on this in January. Is there time then, do you think, to cobble something together? Can it still be saved? Or, like you said, is this just going to be broken up now and offered up in separate legislation?
Well, it's not even sure whether or not he would vote for it in separate legislation. I mean, that's the whole point. The idea of a big bill is that you put in stuff that some people like, some people don't like, some people like that, some people like other parts, and you kind of deal with the possibility that on standalone bills, certain things could die, and you put them all together to make them all go at the same rate. So I think they still want to do that. I think the child care tax credit is going to be number one in that. I still think there are some issues regarding taxes on corporations that could do it. There's still some pay-fors, which is congressional speak for making sure that you actually pay for what it is you're spending, that can be negotiated. But right now, Build Back Better as it is, with all the different aspects of it, including the climate change and other parts, is dead. And they're going to have to essentially figure out what will Build Back Better, the smaller bill, be if they're going to get something done in January.
A lot of brainstorming that's going to need to be done there. Michael, before we let you go, we do want to, I know that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's set to speak in San Francisco in a couple of hours here, but we're also hearing that she might be actually seeking re-election.
Yeah, there's a report out that she was going to do it, and from those reports, there certainly wasn't any pushback from anyone in the camp. I think that's probably the right thing to do. You've seen retirements like Jackie Spear and others, but I think that her leaving would not be a good. No matter what happens in the midterm elections in 2022, taking her out of that equation now, from her point of view, would not be a great thing. So it's a good thing for San Francisco. I'm really happy that she's continuing on, and she's certainly proved that she is still the most effective speaker in the history of the United States.
And turning 82 in March, let's not forget, and still wields quite a bit of power there in Washington.
If I'm like that at 82, 82 is like the new 62, especially when it comes to Nancy Pelosi. So people underestimate her to their detriment every year. She's going to be fine. Age is not just a number for her.
Not hanging it up just yet. All right, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.
Our top story this hour, in an announcement that came as a surprise to some, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced today that she will run for re-election in 2024. KRON 4's Catherine Heenan joining us now live from the newsroom. She has all the details. Thanks for joining us, Catherine.
Yeah, Justine, it did surprise some people. I think more than a few people thought Nancy Pelosi would not run again. She is 83. Some people figured she would not really want to hang around Congress if she was not House Speaker, if she wasn't leading every fight, but not so. While she stepped down as Speaker in 2022, clearly she has settled into her new role, and until now, a possible race to replace her had even been shaping up. Names including her own daughter, Christine, State Senator Scott Wiener. That's now off the table, with Pelosi saying in a statement today she believes she's needed to advance San Francisco values and further our recovery, as she put it. Our political analyst Donna Crane admits she is a little bit surprised.
It's a surprise. I know her. Her operation, her personality, her governing style fairly well, having worked with that office a lot in Washington, D.C. And, now that I've thought about it this morning, she's a person who likes to make decisions for herself and in her own time. So I guess maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I am. In general, elected officials have a really hard time leaving office because it's such a big part of their identity. A lot of them just don't know what they would do or really who they would be without that office. And then I would take her at face value, her public statement at face value. She says she really wants to help Joe Biden accomplish everything he can, both through re-election and through, ideally, she hopes, a second term.
Pelosi's decision to run again expected to fuel the ongoing questions about the advanced age of some of our leaders, whether there should be age limits. Some of the recent focal points of that discussion, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, you just saw him, he's 81. 90-year-old Dianne Feinstein. President Biden, he's 80. While Pelosi appears to be in good health, Donna Crane says her students often complain that overall the nation's leaders are simply too old, and that is a perception increasingly perhaps others share. Justine?
A trial begins tomorrow morning for the man accused of breaking into Nancy Pelosi's Pacific Heights home and striking her husband, Paul, with a hammer. David DePape is facing 2 charges: assault on an immediate family member of a federal official and attempted kidnapping of a federal official. Our KRON 4's Teresa Estacio joins us now live from the newsroom with what we could expect in court tomorrow. Teresa?
Well, we are expecting a lot. Legal experts say evidence such as the body-worn camera video from San Francisco police officers will play a major role in the case against David DePape.
This is going to be a lot of intense moments in this trial.
DePape is accused of breaking into former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's home in October of 2022 and attacking her husband Paul with a hammer. Officers responding to a 911 call from the Pelosi residence recorded the moment of the attack that fractured Paul Pelosi's skull.
Something the defense needs to take head on and say, yes, that is him there. But I think they'll say it's more of an impulsive act as opposed to a premeditated effort to kill Paul Pelosi.
Former prosecutor and now defense attorney Stephen Clark says for prosecutors, the opening statements will focus on the gravity of the offense, plus highlight the key evidence and establish the defendant's actions.
Paul Pelosi will set the stage for what happened to him at the moment that DePape made contact with him in his bedroom. And it will be very compelling testimony because of the way he handled this case, the way he talked to the 911 operator, and perhaps saved his own life by keeping calm.
Clark says for the defense, they will look to deflect the confessions made by DePape in the hours after his arrest. He says that they will also likely bring in mental health experts to testify.
Well, you'll see Mr. DePape try to present himself well to the jury. I think they will speak to his mental health challenges and say that he did not intend to commit attempted kidnapping of the speaker, that he was suffering from some mental health issues at the time.
If she told the truth, I'd let her go scot-free. Right. If she lied, that was gonna break me down.
This is part of the audio from DePape's interview with police after his arrest. Clark says DePape could take the stand himself, presenting a unique challenge in this high-profile trial.
It is his constitutional right, even if his lawyers try to talk him out of it, because he's someone that appears to have an agenda. The question will be, how far will the court allow that?
Now, again, the trial starts tomorrow in federal court here in San Francisco. And stay with KRON 4 News as we provide live updates on the very latest details. Also, details on KRON4.com. Reporting in the newsroom, back to you guys.
With 4 days left until the election, leaders from both sides of the aisle are championing the candidates they want to see in office, including Nancy Pelosi. Now, she spoke with our Charles Clifford today in an exclusive interview you'll only see here on KRON 4 News. Charles joins us live now. And Charles, what exactly did she share with you?
Well, this is a very busy time for the speaker. She's in San Francisco today, and about an hour or so ago, we got a chance to talk to her exclusively about the upcoming election, and she responded to some comments that former President Trump made earlier today. On Friday, U.S. Representative and former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi spoke exclusively with KRON 4 about the upcoming election.
I'm feeling pretty good. I've been in almost a different city every day.
She says she's optimistic about Vice President Harris's chances of winning the White House and about Democrats doing well in the House of Representatives and the Senate.
There's great activism to get out the vote. And for me, as a former chair of the California Democratic Party, it's all about owning the ground. It's all about mobilizing to get out the vote. And that is what we see happening now. We have the message from our wonderful candidate for president. We have to win the House, and we will win the House. Democrats will win the House, we will win the White House, and hopefully we'll win the Senate as well.
Pelosi also responded to recent comments made by former President Trump in which he suggested that Liz Cheney should be threatened with violence.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Something must be wrong with him if he thinks that that's okay. And if he thinks that there's a market for such language, that he's really doing an injustice to the American people and, frankly, insulting the intelligence of his own supporters. They don't want people having guns pointed to the faces of someone who disagrees with them. I think that he has demonstrated very clearly that he has no shame.
All right, back live now. We will have more from Speaker Pelosi coming up later today here on KRON 4 News at 2 o'clock. But for now, in San Francisco, Charles Clifford, KRON 4 News.
All right, Charles, thank you so much for that coverage there.
Today's San Francisco's federal building has been renamed the Speaker Nancy Pelosi Federal Building. And she was there to unveil this new sign for the building that's right near Market Street in San Francisco, which is where we find KRON 4's Charles Clifford. How'd it go today, Charles?
Well, good afternoon. Yeah, the federal building here along 7th near Market, about 19 stories tall, is an iconic structure in the neighborhood. And today, as of today, it has a new name. Let's go ahead and take a look at some video here from a little earlier this morning. Now, former Speaker of the House, current Representative Nancy Pelosi, was on hand here this morning as the building was renamed in her honor. It is now the Speaker Nancy Pelosi Federal Building. Pelosi, of course, has represented San Francisco and the Bay Area in Congress since 1987. She's had a large impact on the city over the years. And at Monday's ceremony, a long list of local elected officials said that renaming the building is a fitting tribute to her work.
Future generations, countless people who will come to this building to work or to meet, will be reminded of your leadership. And that, to me, is the greatest legacy that this building will be and will stand for a future testament for so many years to come.
And I thank all of you for giving me the honor to speak for the people of San Francisco on the floor of the House for such a long time.
All right, now the federal building here houses the offices of more than a dozen federal agencies, including Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, and the Federal Trade Commission. But for now, in San Francisco, Charles Clifford, KRON 4 News.
Charles, thank you. Tonight is that San Francisco Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi will not seek re-election.
The decision ends a nearly 40-year run representing the city, and it caps a historic career as the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House.
It shouldn't be a total shock. Nancy Pelosi ended up serving the people. Her father and brother were mayors of Baltimore, and her dad represented that city in Washington. Seen with a bat here, he was a member of the congressional baseball team. With politics in her blood, she married San Francisco native Paul Pelosi and raised a family of 5 before jumping into the deep end of the political arena. She served in California state politics, then was elected to the House of Representatives in 1987, and eventually became the first female Speaker of the House in 2007.
It's an historic moment for the Congress. It's an historic moment for the women of America.
And tonight I have the high privilege and distinct honor of my own as the first president to begin the State of the Union message with these words: Madam Speaker.
During her first tenure as Speaker that lasted until 2011, she was a driving force behind new laws. The Affordable Care Act, the Dodd-Frank financial reforms after the Great Recession, and the repeal of the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy targeting LGBTQ troops. Pelosi returned to the Speaker's office from 2019 to 2023, and that term was defined as being a check on President Trump. The House impeached him twice, and she famously tore up his 2020 State of the Union speech when he was finished speaking. During her time representing San Francisco, Pelosi created the Presidio Trust, turning the former military post into an urban national park. She also spearheaded the Pelosi Amendment in 1989, which is now used all over the world in assessing how development affects the environment. Now 85, recent years have presented challenges. She and her husband were victims of political violence when a man broke into her San Francisco home and, while looking for her, brutally attacked Paul, who survived but is said to still be recovering. And she fell, breaking a hip while on a congressional trip to Europe. But in the most Nancy Pelosi thing ever, before going to a military hospital for surgery, she got to her feet in those trademark stilettos and smiled for the group picture. These later years also cemented her legacy as a powerhouse fundraiser for Democrats all over the country. She raised more than $1 billion over her career. And even in this era of polarization, this trailblazer was respected on both sides of the aisle. It was less than a year ago when she flexed her muscle and influence, quietly working behind the scenes to essentially force President Biden to end his re-election bid at the 11th hour. As always, her voice was heard.
It seems prophetic now that the slogan of my very first campaign in 1987 was, "A voice that will be heard." And it was you who made those words come true. There has been no greater honor for me than to stand on the House floor and say, I speak for the people of San Francisco. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative.
And now, as the legend prepares to step back, she certainly will not step away entirely and figures to remain a powerful player in politics for years to come.